Hi, and welcome to the Healthy and Happy Lifestyle Summit. I'm Dr. Sheetal Ajmani. I'm a pediatrician, best-selling author, Ayurveda lifestyle consultant, yoga instructor, and your host for the summit. Today, I'm joined by a dear friend and colleague, Dr. Aarti Soorya. Dr. Soorya is a board-certified physical medicine and rehabilitation physician who combines her conventional medical training with leading-edge concepts in biomedical functional medicine. Her approach includes treating the root cause of disease through lifestyle interventions, nutrition, and mindset. Dr. Surya believes healthy people are happy people, and happy people change the world. She loves supporting individuals on their health journeys so that they can contribute to the world what they were meant to do. She currently practices integrative functional medicine at Natural Balance Wellness in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Today, she's going to be talking to us about how you can optimize your well-being through sleep. Welcome, Dr. Surya.
Thank you, Dr. Ajmani. So excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. Let's just get started. Can you tell us what are your top tips or top ways that people can start to optimize their sleep?
Absolutely. I'm so passionate about this because one, sleep was something that I struggled with. And then two, it's the most underutilized drug that I think we have. And it's so powerful because it's a lifestyle intervention. And I know it is something that people struggle a lot with. So I have a bunch of tips for everyone. Not everything's going to work for everyone. So, you're going to have to kind of pick and choose and stick with something for a couple of days to see whether that's something that benefits you or not, but they're tools. So hopefully you guys will get something out of this. So one of the biggest things that affects our sleep these days is light. And I know there's a lot of talk about blue light exposure and people are aware about that, but I don't think people realize that how much it actually affects our sleep. It decreases your melatonin production up to 50% if you're using it in the evening time. So the biggest tip I can have is actually, I have some props as well, is actually to get some blue light blocking glasses, okay? Because I know not everyone is going to stop their electronic exposure. People have to work. I get it. We don't live in caves anymore. And so, actually protecting yourself. So these are ones that actually have protection on the side as well. So a lot of the brands that you'll see, if you peruse Amazon, they're kind of two different colors that you'll see, like a yellow tinted one and then these red ones. The yellow tinted ones are fine for like your evening time, but I would say the closer you get to sleep, you really need to change to these red ones because they block not only blue light, but also purple and green, which can affect your nervous system and keep you still wired from like a very, you wouldn't even notice. Like you would think that you're doing your job with just the yellow tinted ones. I really recommend the red ones that cover your eyes from the side. Any amount of light that's going to come in, you've already disrupted your melatonin production.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
really helpful to see. I'm glad that you showed us those glasses. That's really helpful to see it and to really, pay attention to make sure that it's covering the sides, covering that peripheral vision as well, blocking that light from coming in.
Absolutely. And I think the other point is that we're still wired like our ancestors. So if it's dark outside, our physiology is used to it should be dark inside. Now, we are still also disrupting it, not only with these electronics, but actually, our lamps, our overhead lighting, that also affects your melatonin production. So what I suggest is, still wear these glasses at night as much as you can. Dim your lights, starting in the evening time. If it's starting to get dim outside, you better dim inside as well to keep that natural rhythm going. And one thing, the prop that I don't have is because I'm quarantining at my parents now, is, replace the areas in your house or apartment with a red light bulb. That can also start to dim and at least give your brain the signal, okay, it's time to go to bed. So those are some big tips, I guess, in terms of light exposure.
I actually did that. You recommended that to me a few months ago, and I actually did that in my bedroom so that when I'm getting ready to sleep, winding down to sleep, I have that red light on instead of the regular light that I was using before. And I've noticed a big difference. So it's a really helpful tip.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That's so good to hear. Because I think people are like, okay, I'm reading before bed, but then if you're reading with a lamp that's a normal lighting, it's still kind of disrupting your level of melatonin production. And so that gives me the next thing is, get some blackout curtains so that you're like in pitch black. If that's not possible, get an eye mask that really covers like this. It's got like this cups that kind of cover your eye up so that there's really literally no light coming in, which can be very, very helpful to generating sleep. The next thing is sunlight. So we're talking about light. Light is not all bad, but getting your sunlight in the morning time really helps set the rhythm of your day. Our biology, whether we like it or not, is very intimately connected with nature. And so when you step outside, that signals to the brain, okay, it's time to release these hormones, these neurotransmitters that help you get ready for the day and be productive for the day. The brain then tells all the organs, signals to all the organs, okay, this is what time of day it is, this is what time you're going to repair. So really getting that sunlight exposure in the daytime is super, super important, okay? Minimum 20 minutes, but I know people, that's not always feasible. Whatever you can do, get outside. Mm-hmm. And then the next tip, this was actually something that was very, very helpful for me when I was struggling with sleep. And I'm going to put a disclaimer there that you should definitely check with your doctor regarding this. It's called grounding or earthing. And it can sound a little bit woo-woo, a little bit new agey. I thought the same thing when I was looking into it, but there are, as I mentioned before, we've evolved with nature in terms of our physiology, and we're still wired like our ancestors. We used to walk barefoot on the earth all the time. The earth has an electromagnetic frequency called the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz. And our skin is conductive. So we were always in contact with that frequency. And that really helped keep our nervous systems in a calm, cool, collected state. And so if you look at brain waves and things like that, you're more in that calm alpha brainwave state when you are grounding. So the way I like for people to think about it is, how do you feel when you walk on the beach? You feel good. You get the natural, electrons from the earth that help neutralize any inflammation in the body. The reason I say you should talk with a physician or, whatever your healthcare practitioner is that you work with, grounding, they've created these mats that actually, because we're no longer in contact with the earth as much as we used to be, they've made these mats that are called grounding mats. They only plug into the ground port of your plugs. So it's like that third prong. And the benefits of it are improved sleep, decreased anxiety, feeling more refreshed. You're getting into deeper stages of sleep. Studies have shown that, your cortisol levels can start to come down. You're feeling, once you improve your sleep, your mood improves. You're not as anxious. You have more energy. Now, if you're on medication, such as thyroid medication or diabetes medication, blood pressure, any sort of medication, it may decrease the need for it, which is a good thing. But if you're not working with a practitioner, you might become over medicated and then subsequently have some medical issues concurrently as a result of that. The other things is that it can thin your blood. So if you're on blood thinners, you need to pay close attention to that, as well as, it can improve your blood sugar. So if you've got some chronic lifestyle diseases going on, make sure to speak with your physician. The other thing is the big thing that a lot of people deal with, and I'm totally guilty of this, stress and anxiety. Stress really takes a toll on your body and your ability to produce sleep. I saw this in myself. It took me a long time to really even acknowledge that I was actually stressed because as physicians, we're, used to working at this high stress mode. It doesn't really necessarily click that we actually may be stressed, and that's what's causing our sleep issues. And so just look at it that stress is not just some word. It has physiological impacts on your body. So a cortisol level that's always high, is going to, tell your body you're in fight or flight. We're meant to be able to handle stress for short periods of time, not long periods of time. So if you're in fight or flight constantly, that's going to be pretty depleting to your hormones, your neurotransmitters. So the biggest way I think, and I think you're a big proponent of this as well, Dr. Ajmani, is breath work. Breath work hacks your nervous system into more parasympathetic mode, which is rest and digest mode, which is healing mode. I know people can get a little like, breathing, yeah, right. I will tell you from all of my struggles, it was probably the most powerful thing that you can do to really incorporate to get you more into parasympathetic mode. And so one breathing technique that comes from yoga is left-sided nostril breathing, where you cover your right nostril and then you're only inhaling and exhaling slowly through the left nostril. I do this about 30 slow breaths before bed as part of my nighttime routine. It really helps me get into an even deeper stages of sleep. So try that out. And then the other stuff is using all of your senses. So oils, like things like lavender or lemongrass, can be very calming. And so what you're trying to do is really create a calm atmosphere so that your body knows you're safe so that you can go to bed. Okay. So, you can use a diffuser, or you can just put it on your wrist, the big toe of your feet. That's always a good place for oils. Music, that's the other thing, using all of your senses. So creating calming atmosphere. There is some emerging evidence. It's not totally quite concrete yet. So I'm not going to completely endorse it, but I think there is promise in using binaural beats for creating sleep. And so each of our brain waves are running at different frequencies. And the slower the frequency, the more deep stages of sleep and relaxation you're getting into. And the promise of binaural beats is that if you can just look them up on YouTube, use headphones, and what it's doing is kind of creating and entraining your brain into that deep stage of relaxation so that you can go to bed. So that's another thing you could do. Temperature. So I know we've talked about, us being very intertwined with nature. Big thing, light, that I mentioned before, is a cue that we use for sleep, or absence of light. The other is a decrease in temperature. So as the night would, evening would come in, the night would settle in, the temperature would cool down. We kind of keep our temperature the same throughout the day. So we're also missing another, physical sensation that happens to trigger sleep. So I say cool your temperature down in the evening time. I like to keep it, at 65, but, 68 is pretty good to kind of help keep, just trigger your whole physiology that it's time for bed. This kind of plays back into that we are still wired like our ancestors to really, really hone in on that idea. And then exercise. So movement really, really helps create and tires your body out a little bit for sleep. And for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I always recommend trying to exercise a little bit earlier in the day so that it can, one, not wire you too much before you go to bed, because it's going to release endorphins, it's going to release norepinephrine, epinephrine, which is a little bit more stimulating. So watch your exercise time. I'm a big proponent of it, but more earlier in the day.
Definitely. I agree completely with that. You don't want to exercise too close to bedtime, because then that can keep you up and affect your sleep. But definitely getting that exercise, that movement in throughout the course of the day can be really helpful. I agree with you completely.
Yeah. And, there's this other, I guess, technique or gadget, I guess, if you will, you can use to kind of help especially with people who have anxiety. Weighted blankets can be quite helpful in terms of kind of creating that sense of you feeling safe. So just having a weighted blanket on at night, that can also help kind of, make you feel safe and try to keep deeper stages of sleep that way. The one, I guess, like we didn't mention before, was just a cultural attitude about sleep. I think we've kind of put it to the side because we've tried to put our, I guess, career ambitions or, societal things of like, trying to be more productive, like ahead of sleep. And actually, we're all so passionate about health as well. And one of the biggest things that helps you stay healthy is sleep. And so looking at it from like a cultural standpoint, when the Industrial Revolution happened, we actually had the production of light, which allowed, increased productivity. But with that also came decreased sleep. And then you're starting to see all these chronic lifestyle issues creep up and increase in numbers. So,
which then also ends up affecting your productivity. So if you think you're staying up late
yes.
to boost your productivity, to get more things done, to reach, to achieve your goals, it's actually can have an opposite effect, because then it can affect your health, your well-being, your focus, your attention the next day. So if you want to boost your productivity even, it's actually better to get that restorative sleep at night.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the other things I want people to look out for in terms of medical things that could be causing an imbalance in your sleep. So, hormonal imbalance, people with thyroid issues, progesterone deficiency. I mentioned stress before. Stress depletes progesterone. Progesterone is very calming to the nervous system. It actually metabolizes into like metabolites of GABA. And so that's why it's very calming. And so, hormonal imbalances can cause sleep issues, adrenal issues. If you're always in fight or flight, you're ramped up, your body's survival mechanism is on. So if your cortisol is always high, that can also dysregulate your blood sugar. So if you're not able to keep your blood sugar stable, that could be also one reason why you are waking up at night, because you're tanking. So a tip for that would be, try a scoop or two of nut butter before you go to bed to help keep your blood sugar stable. That way you're not waking up. The other thing is sleep apnea. So it's very underdiagnosed, I will tell you. And it's not just the people who are, stereotypically what we're taught is obese or with thick necks. We catch it all the time in the thin, frail people, because if you're constitutionally weaker, you just cannot keep your airway open. So if you're grinding your teeth or clenching your teeth or waking up toxic, you might want to try to rule out sleep apnea. The other tips would be, don't eat 3 hours before bed. If your body is trying to digest your food like late into the night and then you just go plop into bed, it's very confusing. It's confusing signals. So your body's like, am I supposed to digest the food or am I supposed to sleep? It's going to try to digest the food first and then go to sleep. So just timing of your food, make sure that your meal isn't super, super heavy. I know in the United States, we tend to kind of give a lot of importance to dinner. I would say try to shift it more towards the lunchtime and then keep dinner a little bit lighter. And then making sure you're getting enough calories and nutrition in. People who are malnourished or undernourished or have been dieting for a long time, you're not going to have the building blocks to even make your hormones or your neurotransmitters that help with production of sleep. So just making sure you're not going too calorie restrictive. Just evaluate your dietary habits there, something to think about. And then last thing would be supplements. This is always my last thing that I talk about. It's not necessarily the most important, if you want me to be honest. I think they're good tools to help, if you're in a crisis mode, yes, use them, but don't forget to do the work on the other stuff. there is no quick fix. So, but I believe in them. I think they're helpful tools, especially if you're really struggling. But always look at the other stuff that we talked about, and don't use supplements long term. I'm not a big fan of using supplements long term at all. Magnesium, that's a big deficiency in our country. So making sure, you're getting enough magnesium. Phosphatidylserine can be very, very helpful in generating and kind of trying to keep you asleep as well. It modulates your cortisol response, so it can kind of dampen that response so you're not as wired. The adaptogens, so adaptogenic herbs you're familiar with from the Ayurvedic perspective. They've been used for thousands of years, like ashwagandha, magnolia bark, rhodiola. So those are all things that I would consult your physician on that, because it has to be tailor-made for you, so that they're looking at your medications, your history, what would be more appropriate for you. So yeah, those are some my favorite tips for sleep.
Wonderful.
Hopefully that was helpful.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed how at the end there, when you started talking about supplements, because I talk about this when I talk about Ayurveda as well. A lot of times people will come to me with Ayurveda wanting to just start out with herbal supplements, and really seeking that out. And I always start with lifestyle, actually, because according to Ayurveda, really, if you don't address the lifestyle factors first, the herbs just don't have as much of an effect. And I feel like that's something that you were mentioning too, in terms of the supplements. They can help. Same with Ayurveda. Herbs can be very, very powerful. At the same time, if you're looking for those long-lasting effects, and a theme that I think is probably going to be throughout the presentations of this whole week, is that we're really aiming to give you tools that will help you in the long term, really empowering you with this knowledge and tools that will have long-lasting effects for you. Dr. Soorya, you also mentioned stress quite a few times, actually. And so that was coming up as a big message for me, that really, finding tools to manage our stress can be really important to help with our sleep. You taught us a breathing practice. I also want to mention, to everyone who's listening right now, please check out some of the other presentations that are going to be going on this week. On the very first day of the summit, Dr. Sharma led us through a mindfulness, breathing practice, and yoga flow, so that can be very helpful. We have other speakers talking about gratitude and journaling. All that can be wonderful tools to help manage your stress, in combination with these wonderful tips that Dr. Soorya shared with us today.
Absolutely. I think one of the big things, and I had to learn this myself, is with stress, you got to show up every day, because you're training your nervous system. So don't think, you did it once, I didn't feel anything, my stress didn't go away, I'm still wired. It's okay. That's to be expected. It's slow and gradual, but man, once you get it, it just changes your life.
That's very true. And many of the tools that are used to manage stress, many of the tools that are used actually in all of the categories of lifestyle that we're talking about this week, really have cumulative effects. So you do a little bit each day, and it adds up, and you end up seeing the benefits long term. Great.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Soorya. Is there any kind of closing points you'd like to make, or big takeaways you'd like to leave with anyone watching right now?
Big points. Get your sleep under control, because man, it is the best drug for you. It's if Mother Nature didn't want us to have it, we would have evolved out of it. We have not evolved out of the need for sleep. So nurture it. If you're struggling with it, don't push it to the side. Get on top of it, because it will prevent so many diseases like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, autoimmunity, mood issues. It affects everything. And so if you want the most bang for your buck, get your sleep under control.
Wonderful. Wonderful point. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, Dr. Soorya.
Thanks for having me on.
Sure. And if someone wants to learn more, can you please tell them where they can find you?
Sure. So I'm Dr. A. Soorya on both Instagram and social and Facebook. And then my clinic is nbwellness.com, so Natural Balance Wellness Medical Center in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Great. Well, thank you once again. And for those of you tuning in today, please comment below to let us know your biggest takeaway from Dr. Soorya's talk. I hope you're enjoying the summit so far. Be sure to keep tuning in for more. And remember, this summit is free. We appreciate your support by liking, commenting, and sharing to help spread the word.